Hello, hello, hello. This is R.C. Blakes, and I am coming to you live this Sunday afternoon. I'm hoping that I'm hoping that someone's there. I had something on my heart. If you don't mind, I always forget how we share on YouTube, but if you can share in any way, please do so and kind of like this video and give me your comments as we kind of discuss what I want to discuss today. Looking back at, well, I haven't done lives in a while. I'm just kind of responding to some of the messages that are popping up. And if I don't respond to you, it's just that some people get distracted when I talk to you. So I try to just kind of do what I'm going to do so as to, impact as many people as possible. There's a lesson that I taught in our last year in our Queenology conference. There's a lesson that I taught entitled "Your Throne is a Terrible Thing to Waste." And for those of you that may not be familiar with the whole concept of Queenology, it's a book that I've written. I don't have a copy of it near me, and it's directed to women, sisters, from a father's perspective of what should be implanted in a woman's self-concept, which empowers her self-esteem, which empowers her life's choices. Queenology, the study of queens. Every woman should study queens, and I believe that the first introduction, or one of the first introductions to a woman's queen consciousness, should be the relationship with her father. Her father should define her as such. Her mother should ideally demonstrate what a queen looks like, walks like, talks like, but her father reinforces who she is. And before he releases her into the world, he should firmly establish her self-esteem so that the world cannot tamper with her self-view. And so we go through this process of, discussing the plight of modern women who are born into situations where there are no fathers and where the mothers are either ill-equipped to model, or the mothers are forced to, wear so many hats that they're not there to model what a queen looks like. So the average woman, or many women, should I say, enter into the world without any self-concept, and the world imprints upon her what it desires her to believe about herself. The world will always change your price tag if you allow it to. If you allow the world to change your value, it would always diminish your value so as to abuse you, so as to manipulate you, so as to use you. And so many women are entering into the world without this queen consciousness. And when a woman comes into contact with anything that would awaken her to herself, it's like a sleeping queen arising, and she wakes up and she realizes, I'm queen. And she gets this new identity, this new understanding of who I am. The world has impressed me that I'm this, but I'm really that. And then she kind of looks around the room that she's awakened in, and she notices this throne. And then she has to come to terms with the fact that the throne in the room belongs to her. Now, what the throne represents in this little discussion we're having this afternoon, the throne represents the woman's truest power. The throne represents your capacity. You're awakened, you're conscious now, you're no longer sleeping, but now the question is, are you really going to ascend to your greatest, or your greater self, the best version of you? Are you really going to step into and maximize, actualize your truest power as a queen? Because it takes a lot of strength inner strength to step to a throne, and even more so, to sit on it. The only way you can step to a throne and sit on a throne is that you have to know that that throne is yours. Now, God creates you and God defines you. God creates us and He defines us. But we must, watch this, you must own God's definition of you. Because just like I'm sitting here and I'm talking to you now, there are all kinds of voices that are in the world that are throwing contradictory ideas to what I'm selling. I'm saying to you that every woman is born a queen. Most are just unaware because no one's ever told them. Now, once I make that statement and I jar your consciousness, and maybe you do maybe you read the Word of God, and maybe you do some in-depth study and some thinking, and you awaken to the fact, I am queen. Now, once you awaken to the fact, somebody's going to direct you to the throne. Are you willing to sit on it? Because if you do not sit on your throne, if you don't maximize your power, if you don't take advantage of your full potential, someone else will. Now, a queen is often robbed of her throne through miseducation, indoctrination, manipulation, and even social conditioning. And the weirdest thing for me as I teach this thing called Queenology, here's the weirdest thing. The greatest backlash that I get, relative to this message does not come from men. The greatest backlash I get concerning this message comes from women with broken consciousness. That's amazing to me. It's sad, but it's amazing to me that when I look in my emails or when I look through the comments, that 8 out of 10 negative comments, and I don't get a lot of negative. I'm not trying to leave that impression, but 8 out of the 10 negative comments I may get, it comes from women. And here I am, a man, saying to you what no other man has ever said, and some women are so broken by society, by the miseducation, the indoctrination, the manipulation, and what have you, that they can't even accept a man saying to them, you are better than society has labeled you. You're more than society has labeled you to be. You can do more than society has limited your hand to do. But they can't accept that because they've been miseducated and they've been, I like this word, indoctrinated. And what's the difference between, well, there's a difference, should I say, between education and indoctrination. Most of the world is indoctrinated. Education is when I teach you and I empower you with the intention to maximize your capacity and your ability through truth. Indoctrination is when I take whatever I want and I pour it into you and I push my ideas and my ideals on you. And many times those ideas and ideals have nothing to do with truth. The world indoctrinates women to believe that you're what? You're sexual objects. You're second class to men. The Bible does not, and they'll use the Bible, even religion, to push that lie. They'll let you get the same education. They'll let you work on the same job in the same office, doing the same work, sometimes more, and they'll pay you less. All of this is what? Subliminal, not even subliminal, just kind of, below the radar, stealth-like conditioning to make you subconsciously buy into, I'm not as good as a man, my only worth is my sex appeal. This is why when a woman gets past 35, 40, 50, 60, she begins to doubt herself and her womanhood. The world wants you to believe that, because the more the world can make you doubt yourself, the more the world can manipulate you. But queens are not manipulated. Queens are not indoctrinated. Queens are educated. Okay, let me get back to my point. Your throne represents your power, your opportunities, your influence, your affluence, and your identity. And none of these things are automatic. Your power, your opportunities, your affluence, your identity, your influence, none of these things are going to activate automatically. These things have to intentionally be empowered. Potential must be maximized. You can have all of the potential in the world. If you don't choose to maximize it, if you don't step to the throne of your potential, you'll die with it. Miles Monroe said the wealthiest place on the planet is the what? Graveyard. Because there you have unfulfilled potential in quantities that are unimaginable. Power must be exercised. I can give you the power, but if you do not exercise the power will never benefit you. Opportunity must be seized. See, this is your throne, your potential, your power, your opportunities. You must maximize your potential, exercise your power, seize your opportunities, and watch this, your identity must be owned. You got to own your identity. You must own your identity. This represents your throne. A throne is a terrible thing to waste. And if you do not step to your throne and sit on your throne, someone else will. Romans 12:2 in the Amplified Version reads like this. Do not be conformed to this world or this age, fashioned after and adapted to its external superficial customs, but be transformed, changed by the entire renewing of your mind, by its new ideals and its new attitudes, so that you may prove for yourselves what is the good and acceptable and perfect will of God, even the thing which is good and acceptable and perfect in his sight for you. The text is saying, one of my favorite texts, do not allow the world to conform you or constrict you or miniaturize you to what it wants you to be and look like, but be transformed. Confirmation speaks of the world, something collapsing on you and squeezing you into a smaller version of your reality. Transformation is where God from within begins to expand and fertilize the seed of power, potential, identity, and opportunity from within, and you grow, you blossom into, it's like the caterpillar transforming into the butterfly. He says, don't be conformed to the world and its standards, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So that's why I'm here. That's why I do this. I've been running all day. I've been on airplanes, but I feel compelled to do this afternoon because I believe a part of my purpose in the world, in the earth, for my life is to be a conduit through which God can transform people's minds and to show people that the Bible is more than just a book of stories. But the Bible is actually a book that fertilizes greatness within us. The Bible speaks of more than just what happens in eternity, but the Bible speaks of the great potential that is in you now even. Now, the idea of confirmation, again, carries with it external pressure. It's the visual of the world applying pressure to reshape you or to prevent you from taking the form the Creator intended. Misdefinition, listen to this statement very carefully. Misdefinition creates an inability to aspire to one's truest potential. All I need to do to limit your aspirations is to misdefine you. All I need to do to limit your aspirations is to misdefine you. This results in a broken consciousness. Misdefinition results in a broken consciousness. You have power you don't know about or are uncomfortable exercising. Now, let me give you 5 common causes of broken consciousness. 5 common causes of broken consciousness. Number 1 is the father wound. Why are women suffering from broken consciousness? Why are women suffering from broken consciousness? Number 1, the father wound. When the father's not in place, the father wound, let me just read this rather than elaborate, I'll just read it. When the father wound is the emotional and psychological void that exists in the soul of a woman whose father did not participate in her life. When this wound exists, it pushes the woman into a position of emotional, social, and relational compensation. She searches for the deposits her father should have made in the eyes, embrace, and acceptance of random men. Now, let me add this for balance. There are some phenomenal mothers who understand the workings, what's going on in the minds of their fatherless daughters. And God gives the mothers the grace to be able to empower the daughters' self-esteem. I want to make certain I say that because this does not apply to everyone. There are people who did not have fathers but had unbelievable mothers, and they still raised girls with a full self-esteem. Then there are others who did not have biological fathers, but they had father figures. I wanted to make certain I say that. But typically, when you see a woman with broken consciousness, if you trace it back, her father was either physically absent or emotionally disconnected. And as a consequence, her self-esteem bank was empty. Number 2, there's the damage of toxic relationships. It's like a trickle-down effect. When the father's absent, the girl is now left in a position where she makes poor relational choices. So she ends up having a string of poisonous relationships. When the father wound exists, the woman compensates for the lack of fatherly esteem through relationships with men. Unfortunately, not in all cases, but unfortunately, in most cases, she chooses men that only further deplete her self-appreciation through constant infidelity. I was talking to one of my spiritual daughters in a certain part of the country recently. I happened to be there, and it was during was for her birthday, actually. And we were talking about her biological father, and she was saying to me that the man that has kind of occupied her time in her life, which is a man that she knows is not her husband and she's not going to marry, but she seems to not be able to get him out of her life. Now, as she has done some of her own personal work, she's come to the personal conclusion that he is a mirror image of her father, and she's searching for the affirmation of her father in her relationship with this man that she knows is not going to be a part of her future. But she's had that awakening relative to why she's making these choices. So women are broken because of the father wound, the damage of toxic relationships. Number 3, the poison of media and religion. That speaks for itself. Media and religion. And yes, I am a pastor. I am a pastor of a church, of churches. In fact, I'm the pastor of pastors. I lead pastors. But I make the distinction between religion and ministry. There is a difference. There's a great distinction. I don't push religion. In fact, I hate religion. I hate religion with a passion because Jesus, did not promote religion. It was religion that killed and tried to at least destroy Jesus. So there's a great distinction. The poison of media and religion only serve to deplete the woman's self-esteem and break her consciousness. Then number 4, there's the deception of materialism as an esteem substitute. We have a generation of women that believe that they can obtain self-esteem at Saks or at Bloomingdale's or whatever the place is called. We have a generation of women that believe that self-esteem is in the color of the bottom of a shoe. and you give her some red bottom, she feels like, well, now I'm on top of the world. She's I call it mascara therapy. It's where you try to paint up the outside while the inside is a wreck. You're trying to paint the pain away. And then number 5, you have the impact of broken sisterhood. When a woman cannot find a collection of sisters, genuine sisters, that support her and love her and are loyal, it serves to perpetuate the damage done to her consciousness, because women need one another. And I say that everywhere I go. It's cool for me as a man to come in as a father and to speak, or as a big brother, however you might see me, and to speak. But at the end of the day, women need each other. Women need the sisterhood. But when the sisterhood is treacherous, and when women are finding themselves betrayed by people that look like them and are going through the same thing as them, it only serves to perpetuate the pain. Now, these are just some of the reasons that queens are forsaking their thrones. You can't own your throne because you're not yet comfortable in your own skin. You can't own your throne because you're not comfortable in your own skin. Someone was reaching out to me just this week, actually, and asking, well, just kind of mentioning how I'm comfortable addressing issues that would attract attack, especially from, you think about me being a Black African-American male in the religious culture. That's where I live. It's not popular for me to empower women, because most of the guys that do what I do, they're not out to try to empower women. So, so they say, well, how are you able to speak? It's because I'm comfortable in my own skin. And the beautiful thing about a throne is that you don't see no two-seater thrones. The throne is made for me, and once I get you to a place where you're comfortable with you, it doesn't matter what other folk think or what other folk say. I'm rambling now. That's the preacher in me. You will never walk into your power timidly. I have to jar you, and I have to awaken you to your power, because you will never walk into your power timidly. If you're a timid little woman and you're embracing the world with a hee, you're not going to really maximize your potential. 2 Timothy 1:7 says, for God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. You cannot sit on a throne that you do not know you own. You got to know in your heart of hearts that the throne in the room is mine. If you do not take ownership of your throne, someone else will. Now, most women are forfeiting their rule because their self-perspective is not in sync with God's view. Most women are presently struggling with an inability to see themselves as queens in dominion mode. So they consistently shrink at the sight of their throne. When you have opportunities, what do you find yourself doing? Shrinking back. You avoid the opportunity because in your heart of hearts, you're afraid that maybe I'm not all I'm thinking I am. When you feel your power, instead of exercising it, you shrink back. But what does God say about you? Jeremiah 29:11-12, he says, for I know the thoughts that I think towards you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. Then shall ye call upon me, and ye shall go and pray unto me, and I will hearken. He says, I know the thoughts that I'm thinking towards you, thoughts of peace and not of evil. The world marginalizes the queen. through systems of intentional miseducation. Again, religion, media, entertainment, business, and even family structures serve to miseducate the young woman. The miseducation comes in the form of the thing we talked about, indoctrination. The world usurps the queen's power from her birth through indoctrination. Women can only do this. Women should dress like this. If you dress like this, more men would like you or would love you. Or if you really want men to love you, have sex with them. You don't need to worry about getting married. Just have sex with random men. Just have sex. You're as free as anybody. Just have sex. The world wants you to believe that. The world puts you on videos half naked. The world puts you on movies as just use, the leading man just use up as many women as he want to use. You're just free sex, free sex. The world wants you to believe that. And then you buy into it. And then you get on a platform like this and you hate a man like me that says to you, God didn't create you to be the sexual tool of a perverted generation of men. You're a queen. You ain't supposed to be laying up in no bed with nobody but your king. A man that deserves and earns the privilege of being close to you. Not some old random dude that just want to breathe up in your face. But you don't like me because you've been indoctrinated. And whenever indoctrination, miseducation meets truth, there's a collision. There's a collision. There's a collision. And I don't have a problem with the collision. I don't have a problem with you not liking me because I know the reason you don't like me is because I'm upsetting the whole structure that the world has established in your mind, and you're going to have to keep thinking about what I'm laying down. And at some point, you're going to wake up. And you're going to send me an email and you're going to apologize for the crazy stuff you said. I'm preaching better than y'all shouting. I think I'm in church now. Let's see. So the internal sabotage of the queen is real. The internal sabotage of the queen is real. You will find yourself sabotaging your own throne. And I'm almost done. I'm not going to keep y'all long. I know I'm getting long-winded. This is live. You will find yourself sabotaging your own throne because of a conflicting internal perspective derived from some very particular sources. Self-condemnation. This is something that many women struggle with, is self-condemnation. In other words, you're incapable of getting past your past. You're incapable of getting past your past. You made mistakes like all of us have, but the world takes and the world positions you without your realizing it, puts you in a place where you can't forgive yourself. Forgiving yourself is accepting your mistakes, learning from them, and choosing to focus your energy on your future and not your past. That's what forgiving yourself is. I made mistakes. I'm human. I gotta leave that where it's at. That's done. That's in my past. I'm not gonna take the pain. I'm not gonna take the pain and the shame from those mistakes. I'm gonna take the wisdom and the lessons. So you keep the pain and the shame, give me the wisdom and the lessons, and I'll move positively into my future. But more women are incapable of forgiving themselves and are living under a cloud of self-condemnation than you can imagine. And self-condemnation makes a woman shrink from the throne that's in the room. It puts her in a position where she's incapable of ascending to that throne. In John chapter 8, verses 7 through 11, let me read it for you. So when they continued asking him, this is the woman that was, caught in adultery. He lifted up himself, speaking of Jesus, and said unto them, he that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone at her. The men that brought her, Jesus said, any of y'all without sin, you be the first one to throw a stone at her. And again he stooped down and he wrote on the ground. And they which heard it, being convicted by their own conscience, went out one by one, beginning at the eldest, even unto the last, and Jesus was left alone, and the woman standing in the midst. When Jesus had lifted up himself and saw none but the woman, he said unto her, Woman, where are those thine accusers? Hath no man condemned thee? She said, No man, Lord. And Jesus said unto her, Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. There you have it. There you have it. She was caught in the very act. Jesus said, Any of y'all without sin, cast the first stone. Nobody threw a stone. And then when Jesus lifted up himself, he says, Where are those that accused? He said, They're all gone. And Jesus said, I don't condemn you. He said, I don't condemn you. Go and sin no more. Go, put that in your past. That's already in your past. It may have happened just minutes ago, but that's already in your past. You got to learn to forgive yourself sooner than later. The more you press, now listen to this very carefully, because when you fail to forgive yourself, what happens is you marry yourself to a point in your past where you failed. You marry yourself to the point of failure. The only way to not forgive yourself is to marry yourself emotionally and psychologically to your past. The more you press into your future, the smaller your past becomes. This is why when you get in your car, listen to me, your windshield is bigger than your rearview mirror. It's because you're supposed to spend more time looking forward than you do looking back. And watch this. When you spend your time looking forward and you keep your foot on the accelerator, even if you look in that mirror, everything in the mirror, everything behind you gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller as you move forward. Forgiving yourself is moving forward in the direction of your throne. Number two, number two, inferior relationships. What's preventing the woman from stepping to her throne? Self-condemnation, inferior relationships, surrounding yourself with people that deplete you because they're inferior. And what happens with people that are inferior, they have a tendency of pulling you down faster or easier than you have the ability to pull them up. It's kind of like if you're in a higher place than I am, and my feet are firmly planted on a position lower than yours, and you're reaching down and I'm reaching up, it's easier for me to pull you down because the law of gravity is working with me than it is for you to pull me up. And a lot of times we develop these inferior relationships. An unequal yoke at worst can kill you, but it will at least prohibit your maximum productivity. When you connect yourself to people that are not on your level, be it romantically or friendships, they have a tendency of destroying your potential. 1 Corinthians 15, 33 and 34 in the Amplified says, Do not be so deceived and misled. Evil companionships, communion associations, corrupt and deprave good manners and morals and character. Awake from your drunken stupor and return to sober sense and your right minds, and sin no more. For some of you have not the knowledge of God. You are utterly and willfully and disgracefully ignorant and continue to be so, lacking the sense of God's presence and all true knowledge of him. I say this to your shame. This is the same text where he talks about don't be unequally yoked together. Don't be tied. In other words, don't be stallion yoked to donkeys. Yeah, that's a good one. Somebody said, don't be tied to folk that remind you of your past. You got folk that are from your yesterday, and you're still trying to bring them into your future, and all they can talk about is what you used to be, what you used to do. They don't have enough sense to see that you're a brand new person now. Proverbs 27:17 says, Iron sharpens iron, so a man sharpens the countenance of his friend. Number three, what prevents a woman from, stepping to her throne? Unprocessed pain. The queen's past may prohibit her true rise to power. She will have to purge the toxicity of her former reality to actualize her present potential. You got to get all of that pain out. This is why you need a sisterhood where you can really talk freely, where people are going to hold your confidence and not judge you, and you can purge the pain of your past. You cannot have a date with destiny. I say this all the time. You cannot have a date with destiny as long as you're still married to history. And when you contain the pain, it is you're in wedlock with your negative history. Hebrews 12:15 says, looking diligently, lest any man miss the grace of God, lest any root of bitterness springing up trouble you, and thereby many be defiled. When you've not let that stuff go, and you're holding on to the pain of your past, bitterness and anger with people, it is effectively marrying you to that place of hurt. Because unprocessed past pain will always arrest present power and disrupt future progress. This is the stuff I taught at Queenology. I just decided to get on here and teach it. This is the stuff I taught at Queenology. Unprocessed pain, past pain, will always arrest present power and disrupt future progress. And then number 4, and I'm done, is the thing that prohibits you from ascending to your throne is a poor attitude. Number 4. Queens have lost their thrones because of attitude problems. Your attitude will adjust your altitude either up or down. What is a queen without a kingdom? And what is a kingdom without a people? Many queens are dismantling networks because they have a poor disposition. You're clearly the most educated in the office. You're clearly the most qualified, but you just don't have a personality that matches the promotion you desire. People don't like you, so you can't get people to work with you. You're smart, you're brilliant. You may even be genius, but you just have a bad disposition, and it's prohibiting you from being able to rise to your full potential. You don't realize that you're standing in your own way. Somebody, that was a good twist on it. A PhD woman with a GED attitude. I like that. You're going to hear that again. Proverbs 18:24. A man that hath friends must show himself friendly, and there is a friend that sticks closer than a brother. Yeah. So my prayer is that you wake up as a queen. You wake up and you look around and you realize that the throne in the room is yours, and that you begin to move in the direction of that throne, and that you sit firmly upon that throne, the throne of your power, the throne of your potential, the throne of your identity. My prayer is that throne of your power. My prayer is that you sit firmly upon that throne, and that you maximize everything that God has put you in the earth to do, and that you will begin to personally renounce any and every voice that calls you anything other than what God has called you. That you know who you are, you know your worth, and that you refuse from this moment forward to settle for anything less than what you deserve. That's my heart's desire for you. That you will not settle for anything less than what you deserve. Well, I got to go. Hey, if this is your kind of thing, I would love for you to, subscribe clearly, like this, send me your thoughts, and share it, share it. But before I let you go, may I pray for you? And I ask that, knowing that I am going to pray, but I like to warn people that I'm going to pray before I pray, because everybody that watches this channel is not always necessarily Christian or saved even. In fact, there's some atheists that watch this channel, and they tell me in their own way how blessed they are. And I just believe that I don't necessarily have to just be pushing the Bible down people's throat to impact people's lives and to ultimately bring people to a place where they have a head-on collision with Jesus Christ one day. Sometimes we just need to be human and stop trying to be the Holy Spirit. Just be a positive example and help people where they are. and you can move people to where God wants them to go. Father, I thank you in the name of Jesus Christ for every person that is watching this. Thank you for those that will watch the replay. And I ask you now, Father, to touch their lives. I thank you for making adjustments, Father, in the minds of your people. Every lie that has twisted their self-perspective, I cancel it. God, I thank you for causing them to elevate in their own minds. And God, I thank you for opening every door before them, making the path to their throne clear, and giving them the boldness to step to it. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. I love you all. Have a great one. Have a great one. Thank you for hanging out with me today. I'll try to go back and look at your comments. There's a lot of them, though. I love you. God bless you. Have a great, great day.